It's Friday, November 17th, 2023. We shall start off with our shill segment, which is to say, go to patreon.com/Ozone Nightmare if you would like to support the show via that platform. If you would prefer to use an alternate method, such as PayPal, you can go over to the show homepage, and to your right, you shall see arrayed a row of vertical, rounded squares, one of which will have the PayPal logo. That will take you to a donation link for, I haven't checked that in a long time. Let me make sure that still works. Hold on. Let's see. Yes, it does. Amazingly, say what you want about PayPal. That link has been in place for 15 plus or so years and has consistently kept working, which you can't say about a lot of things on the internet. So that still works. I'm just saying, it's kind of, there's a great joke about the lifetime subscription to any internet company at this point, which is, what does that mean? 3 years before you're acquired by another company and then it gets destroyed? So don't ever pay a lifetime anybody, unless you're really sure. Don't ever do it. Just pay yearly or monthly, because who knows? Who knows? Look at Bandcamp. Who knows? So there's also
gone.
Bandcamp was acquired by Epic, who has just sold it to, I believe, a Chinese subsidiary company that has laid off, I think, 30% of the staff at this point.
Oh,
and its days are likely numbered.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's just, that's the nature of tech now, and that's one of the. This is a whole separate topic for a whole.
Okay,
separate
go on,
show.
go on. Finish the thing.
In any event, you will see a book icon with a bookmark that will take you to Lando's Amazon author page. You will see a skull, which will take you to my Linktree for my artistic endeavors. And at the bottom is our YouTube channel, where you can view mostly just shows that we post audio of on YouTube, but there's also some shows I've done a little editing on, so I would encourage you to go over and watch those, specifically the John Carpenter retrospective and the Adobe Max recap that I recently did. And finally, the code Ozone, to my knowledge, will still give you 2 months free to do podcasts on Libsyn if you feel that you'd like to dip into this medium that will never pay for anything. So if recent events have taught podcasters anything, it's that was a brief spell where everybody was in love with those and making money, because it ain't happening anymore unless your name is Joe Rogan or maybe Howard Stern, which, no surprise, but that's what it is. And that's it, I think, as far as our shill segment. So I did want to do a little PSA at the top. just something.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, it's if it perhaps warns some people from making a purchase they might regret, then I think it's a good thing. Fortunately, it didn't cost me very much money, or at least it hasn't yet. But I'll explain. So Google offered a fantastic trade-in offer on their new phone. I have the Pixel 7 Pro, and they had a really good deal for the Pixel 8 Pro, which they fixed a couple of problems that the 7 Pro had. One of which kind of affected me, but wasn't a big deal, more of an annoyance, which was the rounded screen. The problem with a rounded screen on a phone is you definitely can tell when you get to the edge that it starts having detection issues. It never really bothered me all that much because I wasn't doing anything that really interacted with it. Once or twice I would run into it, and it definitely was annoying. But I can see how people who were doing a lot of stuff like photo editing or whatever, or use their camera more than me, maybe. Well, we'll get to the camera thing. Actually, it's 3 problems. But it didn't really bother me, but a flat screen is the best screen. So they changed that. They improved the battery life. Now, I never had a problem with battery life, but I definitely had read enough instances of people who did that I wondered if maybe I eventually would. But they have improved that and fixed that from all accounts, and so far it's been fine. Like I said, I never ran into it with the old version, but hey, better battery is better battery. And one thing that I definitely did run into, and this is a baffling problem for this phone to have, because understand, for people who don't follow this stuff, the Pixel phone is Google's in-house flagship phone. This is the device that this company presents to the world as the best platform for the Android operating system. So no matter how good a Galaxy phone may be or whatever else, Google has always said or maintained that this is the best. You get the updates the fastest, you get the best Android experience, blah, 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 top to bottom, right? So
this is their iPhone.
This is their iPhone, correct, where they have as much control over the hardware as possible. They don't really have uniform control the way Apple does. Apple, with its Apple Silicon, really has almost total control, and they will eventually. They're working on controlling every single component, which we'll see what that company looks like once they do. But for right now, they're squeezing every bit of performance out of it. And so this is as close as Google can get to something like that. So it's never historically sold well, but they've generally been good devices. So I got the 7 Pro because my OnePlus 7 Pro was finally starting to show some end-of-life stuff or some cracks in the facade. And plus, OnePlus basically has shot itself in the face, and I have no interest in that company anymore because they've given up any,
I just hear you talking, and I think to myself, I wonder at what point we'll start talking about people in the same way we talk about phones.
Oh,
where it's I feel like they've reached the end of life and they've got some functions that have popped up that aren't really working very well. The memory capacity is low. Mobility's become an issue. I really think we need to terminate this one and turn it in for a newer model.
Listen, many of the phrases that are used in describing technology are anthropomorphic devices. So at some point, once we start really internalizing all these components, we will talk about people and phones the same way. So I got the 7 Pro, and probably the most baffling of all of its issues, and it didn't have a ton, to be honest, it really didn't, or none that affected me. But Google sells, of all the things on the phone, one of the things that they never fail to tout as good or better than the iPhone, and depending on who you ask, it's true or not, is their camera system. And their camera system, like the iPhone at this point, is a combination of a really advanced actual set of hardware on the device and computational features to try to maximize the look of the photo. And by all accounts, it's excellent. And I've used it, and I've taken photos. They look great. I'm not a big photo guy with a phone, so I'm certainly not doing the same testing that a benchmarking site or somebody would. But I always thought the photos were good, and they're like, their portrait mode is very nice. I've used it on our dog. I never use it on myself. Who the hell cares about looking at me? But I use it on our dog. It looks great. Photos look fantastic. But this is the thing. Their camera system is one of, I would say, the top 3 features that they have touted on every one of their last 4 or 5 phones. They always will just not shut up about how great the camera is, right? And the camera itself is fine. But the app, the built-in on-device Google phone app on the 7 Pro, I kid you not, I would take a photo. And then, let's say I took 3. Because usually with my dog, I take 3. I would take 3 photos, right? And I go to look at them. Because unlike a lot of people, I immediately go into the last 3 or 4 photos I took, and I delete all except the one I want to keep. I do not just store photos indefinitely on my phone. This makes me different than a lot of people. So I go, and here's the thing. I'm sure the iPhone has this too, where you could tell me, you have an iPhone. So you take a photo. Is there immediately a little thing that you can tap on to look at the photo that you just took?
Yes, it's in the corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Same thing. Bottom right. Tap on it on the 7 Pro. Photo comes up. Oh, look at that. That's a nice photo. All right. Let me see if the other one is better. Swipe over. Yeah, that one's. Oh no, I don't know. I don't like that as much. Let me look at the third one. It's locked up. Well, now it won't do anything until I exit the app and reopen it. I emphasize again, this is not a third-party app. This is not something I installed after the fact. This is Google's built-in app for one of their most touted features. And I'm not exaggerating. If it doesn't crash every time I try to look at more than one photo in its preview of its built-in camera app on its flagship phone, then it's every other time. I recreated it at one point so often that when I was showing it to somebody, they said, well, where'd you download that from? And I said, no. I didn't download it. This was on the phone. This is Google's app. And their camera app couldn't handle looking back. Now, it could do 1 or 2 photos. It was always fine. But the minute you hit 3 or more, forget it. It died. It would either freeze or it would just keep showing you the last photo. On their flagship phone from 2022, and this is not the low-end phone. This is the Pro phone, the more expensive one. So you would somewhat expect that it would work properly. Since this is the thing that Google will endlessly never shut up about, is how great their camera system is. But if their app sucks, who cares how good your hardware is? Thankfully, that has been fixed in the 8 Pro. So that was another reason I went, okay, apparently this has been fixed. Because, of course, I found endless Reddit threads where a lot of people said the same thing I just said, except in far less work-friendly tones, let's say. So I was like, okay, this is a great deal. Whatever. My phone's in immaculate condition because all my devices are in immaculate condition because I am a psychopath about them. So my phone, I could tell somebody this was new and they would believe it. That's how scratch-free and completely clean the glass is. And I don't even use up much storage on it. So like my device is as clean as if it fell off a truck yesterday. So I know my trade-in's fine. So part of that, Google said, oh, well, for pre-ordering, which was like 2 weeks before the thing was released, I already have it. If you pre-order it, we will give you a choice of one of 2 things. A free set of earbuds, the Google Buds, which I have so many earbuds, I will never need more. In my entire life, will I never need more.
Are they actually called the Google Buds?
I think they are called the Buds. I think they're called Google Buds.
Sounds like a song, the Google Buds.
It does. They are, I'm sorry, Pixel Buds. They're the Pixel Buds.
Pixel Buds. Oh,
sounds like a set of brothers named Pixel, the Super Pixel Buds. Anyway, that's what it sounds like. Too. But so I went, nah, I don't need those. But the other thing they offered was a Pixel Watch. And I thought, okay, I have said for a while I'm not spending.
I haven't even heard of the Pixel Watch.
Yeah, well, nobody has because it's Google and nobody's heard of the Pixel. Nobody actually. It's funny. My wife and I took a weekend trip to Monterey in California, and that was the only time in my life I have seen someone besides myself with Pixel phones. It was amazing. We went on this whale watching thing, and there were 3 or 4 of them, and I was astounded. I mean, I was literally like staring at them.
Not just another, but 3 or 4.
Yes, because they have a very distinctive camera bump. It's hard to miss. It's like a strip on the back that's very raised, which. I mean, it's distinctive. So when I saw people, I was like, whoa, people have this phone that aren't me? I can't believe it because I've never seen it. In any event, they had the Pixel Watch. And the biggest reason I've been using a Pebble, a discontinued watch from 10 years ago that still works well enough, up until this point is I refuse to pay $300 or so for a watch that can't make it through a day on battery. Can't do it. I just can't do it. Not when my Pebble can go a week without being charged because it's e-ink.
Can the iPhone watch really not make it through a day?
No, an Apple Watch cannot make it through. I mean, you might if you do all the power saving stuff, it probably could make 2. Yeah. But the way most people use it, most people basically charge it every night. That's fairly typical. Almost all smart watches, to be fair, are like that. They really are, and they're also generally huge. That is the one thing I will say about the Apple Watch. It's not immense, which is it's nice that it doesn't stick 4 inches off your wrist because there are people who want that look. That's fine for those people. I'm not one of those people. Neither is my wife. She loves her Apple Watch, charges it every night. So I thought, okay, if you're going to give me the watch, that's a different story. I'll try it. Why not? Why not? Right? And I had to pay $50 for it because I wanted the cellular connectivity. So that way I don't have to have my phone with me. I can just go out. And if I forget my phone, who cares? The watch works. Like I can actually answer a call on it.
Theoretically.
No, I've done it. I did it because when I walk my dog, I don't take the phone anymore. And that's fine. Because why take the phone if you don't need it? It's pointless. For a walk, it's not necessary. The only reason I would bring it is if my wife tried to get a hold of me, which now she can. So great. And it has, the heart rate and all that stuff. And that's nice. And all those features are fine. So, and that one, the way I'm using it, I can squeeze 3 days out of it because I shut it off at night. I don't wear it all night. So if I turn it off, it actually can last 3 days. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But here's what I'm going to tell anybody. Because if you look around at reviews for the Pixel Watch 2, because this is the second one, they're generally pretty good. But here's the thing. Don't buy this watch. Do not buy it. And I'll tell you why. I have no problems with the way it works. It's a very nice watch, especially me coming from a Pebble. Some of the problems other people have, I don't, because I was using a 10-year-old obsolete watch. So the bezels that some people think are huge, let me tell you something. They're not huge compared to a Pebble. Really not. It's a nice bright screen. You know, it has all the functions. They work fairly well as far as I can tell. Nice thing to use. It's not, I mean, it's not a thin watch, but it's on the borderline. It's thin enough that I don't mind it. I hate the wristband, but this is the sport band that even the Apple Watch uses, which is a piece of garbage. I don't know why anybody likes this thing. It's a nightmare and it feels weird, so I've already ordered a replacement for it. But this is the reason not to buy it. It's not the battery. It's not the functionality. It's not even that crappy wristband. No. It's the fact that Google has no repair option for it. Meaning, if this thing breaks tomorrow, I can't get it fixed. Their answer to that is buy another one. Well, I can tell you right now, I wouldn't buy another one because I'm not buying anything that I can't get repaired. But since I got it for $50, well, if I bought a $50 smartwatch and it broke, I would throw it away and get another one. But I'm telling anybody who's even considering this, do not buy it. And in fact, I'm going to be sending an email to Google saying, I'm telling people, anyone I know who sees this thing, not to buy it because you have no repair option. That is flat unacceptable. So do not buy anything that you can't get fixed, especially because, do you want to know what the watch goes for the way I have it at retail? $400. Don't spend that much money on something you can't get fixed. It's ridiculous. And this is just another wonderful example of how Google has its head right up its ass. I mean, it's unbelievable. So, while I myself enjoy this watch if you can get it for $50 the way I did, yeah, sure, get it. Because $50 smartwatch is essentially a toy. Who cares? You know, in the smartwatch space, you will never pay $50 for a good smartwatch. So if you can do it for $50, go for it.
I'm still kind of surprised that you got it for that much. I mean, that says a lot about the device that they gave it to you for that much.
No. What it says, I'll tell you what it says.
To get them out there.
Nobody is buying our phones. Nobody is buying. I mean, their sales on the Pixel phones have never been good, and they're probably still not. They're just so desperate. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar company. They can afford to subsidize a loss leader in this category. They are so desperate for people to have this thing so that they can sell, we moved X million units, that they will subsidize it with the watch or the buds, which the buds probably cost nothing. I mean, the buds sell for high, but I cannot imagine that the actual price of production on the buds is more than $100. Can't possibly be. They've been around for too long. They're too commoditized. There's no way they're paying that much. So that one is probably an easy write-off for them. The watch, I don't know. I don't know what the components actually cost them. But again, it's a company of... No, they want to do it so that they can move these units. Hey, it got me to do it. It was an impetus for me to do it, was the massive discount on the new phone. And I was like, okay, well, you're going to give me a watch. Yeah, I'll take the watch. But no, do not... buy this thing.
It's a strange review because it's like if you get it for free or for $50, it's great. It's fine.
I would say $100 or less. You just have to be aware that if you drop it and it breaks, you will have to buy another one. So you will not get it that way again.
But you know what? I wonder if they've figured out is that there's a lot of people that's just the norm for them. They'd rather just go buy another one than fix it.
Well, okay, most people, if you're going to lay out $400, I mean, this is one of those things where I'm just warning people who are on the fence about it. If $400 for a watch is no big deal to you, by all means, buy as many as you want because you don't have to worry about that. But I'm saying I would never pay. I have refused to pay more than $200 for a smartwatch this whole time. The whole time. Especially because the battery life has largely been crap, and they are generally large and ugly. The Pixel Watch isn't exactly... beautiful.
I don't know if there's any way you could get me back on a watch. I gave up watches probably like 20 years ago.
Okay, so I've talked about this before, but yeah, I'm not trying to sell anybody on a smartwatch ever.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, as somebody
but I'm saying feature wise though, I don't know what feature they could produce on a smartwatch. For me?
Well, for me. For me, there's two main reasons. One is texting while driving. That's great. To be able to look over and somebody texts you, and you just hit voice response. Don't take your eyes off the road. Dictate it, and it says send, and you send it.
But doesn't the car already do that if you wanted to?
No. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but they're now stripping out all the car systems. They're basically now every car maker is going to have their own proprietary one. Have you not heard this?
Oh, they're getting rid of. Oh, wow. So now you're gonna have to download their app to hook your phone to your car?
You will not be able to hook your phone. Will be it will basically, you will have to allow the car. Remember how you talked about cars that were spying on you? Remember that?
Yeah.
You're going to have to provide your car to have all your information, so you're going to have to give it all to the manufacturer. That's why they're doing it.
Oh, fuck that.
Well, okay. So
you know what? I'll just do the illegal thing and text while driving.
Probably most people will, but that's what I'm saying is this cuts the car out.
Oh, you're right? Going to have to go back to like using the auxiliary port to play music through the car.
For all intents and purposes, yes.
Wow,
yeah. They just announced that. They've basically all announced. I think a couple are still holding out, but eventually they're all going to do it because the data is too valuable to them. That's why.
Yeah.
They want as much info from you as possible, and it will be a way to upsell you on features. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So that's the one, and the other is I run 5 email accounts. It is worth it for me to be able to just delete junk emails from my phone or from my watch. Well, using my watch on my phone. So yeah, it's worth it to me. And I do like the fact that it has the heart rate monitor. Like it's keeping an eye on that stuff. If something weird, I'm at the age now where I have to start going, okay, a year from now, who knows? So I'd like it to keep an eye on those things.
Yeah, I'm very aware of my heartbeat. If my heartbeat goes weird, I'll know it before the phone will.
There's lots of stuff that you won't know. Not you maybe, but not a lot of people. I don't know.
And yeah, and I still cannot think of a single feature that a watch could have that would convince me to wear one again. Like, I've just my wife has one, and I never really see her use it. Like, it's just kind of there as like a glorified timepiece. Occasionally, she answers like a phone call or something like that. But otherwise, no, I haven't really seen anybody like fully like use their watch. It just seems like a glorified extension of your phone. You know what I mean? Like,
well, to some degrees, that's what they mostly. There's really 2 reasons that most people use a smartwatch. One is for the fitness and health stuff, and that's really the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch really jumped on that, and they maximized it.
And I could see that if somebody wants that kind of tracking, I could see how that's useful.
Well, or like my wife when she goes hiking, even though she doesn't have signal, that thing has the SOS feature now, where if she was in trouble, if she fell, and broke her ankle in the middle of nowhere, that thing works because it's on satellite now. She could call for help.
No, and
for that reason alone, I want to have it.
There's lots of features. I just can't think of one that would put it on my wrist.
Well, no, not for you. And the other one is mostly as a way to not have to take your phone out of your pocket, which is, for a lot of people, actually a big deal. Because, and this is another thing where you and I are of a different generation now. Because your younger kids don't have phones, right? No, just have iPads. Of course not. Okay. Well, I didn't think so, but you can ask any of your kids who have cell phones, and I'll extend this question out into the audience. Let's do it like that. Do any younger children, and I would say, let's say 24 or younger. I'm just kind of spitballing there, but I'm thinking like a generation back or 2 generations back. Do they ever take their phones off silent? Because apparently, from what I understand, it never happens. So that way, the watch makes it where if you're not really caring if your phone makes noise, the only way you're going to know about an alert is either it's going to vibrate in your pocket all day or your watch will indicate it. And that's how they know. And so a lot of them are using the watch as a way to know, okay, do I need to take my phone out? Is this something I care about? Because you can do everything from a watch now.
I haven't taken my phone off of vibrate in about a decade.
Okay, well, there you go. See, and I never have my phone on vibrate except when I'm asleep. I have it set to go silent at night when I go to bed. And that turns itself off in the morning. I want to know if someone's calling me because I don't know.
Yeah, but you know what? I wake up for the vibration.
I will not.
Yeah, I will. And I'll tell you what's also real weird. My alarm in the morning, you know how like you can make your own ringer?
Yeah.
I wanted to wake up to something that was like not panic inducing, Because for a short time, I had was it Tom Sawyer by
Rush?
By Rush
Yeah.
as my song, as my morning thing, and it scared the crap out of me, and it drove my wife like through the wall. And so I was trying to find this middle ground where like something that could wake me up, but that would not really wake her up. And oddly, I started waking up to Yo-Yo Ma. It's the weirdest thing. I have this cello song of his, and like I hear the cello, and I swear to you, for some reason that shit, it's not loud. Like I can't explain why it works, but it's that, you know, when you get the recording of a cello and you get that first like whum, like that first note.
Sure, yeah.
Right? That shit cuts through my dreams. I hear that thing. It's so rare that does not wake me up, and yet it's so quiet. It's a straight. It must be some kind of conditioning. I must have just conditioned myself to it somehow.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger, I was like that, like you, where it's like I needed an audio alarm. You know, for years when I was younger, I used to listen or wake up to Good Morning Vietnam, the soundtrack with Robin Williams.
Mm.
You know,
Sure.
And I needed that. But for some reason, even when I'm exhausted, the fucking cellos, man, they wake me up. It's the strangest thing. Yeah, I don't know. Alternate biology.
Yeah, whereas you're thinking about, I don't know what could get me to use a watch. I don't know what would ever make me leave my phone on silent all the time. I have all my alert ringtones to tell me which emails are getting or which accounts are getting an email, so I know right away which ones I have to check or not. My notifications are all set with custom things. Like, I know what's going on all the time. I know who's contacting me.
You want to know why I shut my ringer off?
Yeah.
You are with me for the reason why I never have a ringer on anymore. Do you remember?
No, I don't remember.
Gary Oldman screaming?
Oh, God, that's right. Yes. Now I remember. That's right. Wow.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Here's a real world reason for why I've got my phone on ringer for like probably more than a decade now. That's many years ago. Now that I think about it, that's 20-something years ago. At the time, I was dating a girl, and we'd had a very messy breakup, and I knew she was looking for me. Somebody said she was looking for me, and I was worried about it. And Joe, you had come down in the area, and we were headed down to my apartment in South Jersey at that point, like with company. And we stopped at our friend's house, and we went into the house through the back door, and we were in the kitchen. It was like you, me, and Snedeker, and we walked through back door, and we heard my ex-girlfriend's voice in the front room talking to his parents. And we had this brief moment where she didn't know we were there.
Can we get out? Can we get out?
And we were all like, let's go. And then my fucking phone went off, and I had this very unique ringer at that point, which was Gary Oldman screaming everyone from The Professional. And it went off, and I was like, God damn it. And I just remember hearing his mom go, what is that? And my girlfriend at the time, or ex-girlfriend at the time, going, that's Lando.
By the way, on the off chance that anybody has never heard that particular clip that Lando's talking about, I still have it. So I'll play it now, just in case you don't know
you have it? Oh,
imagine this, but very loud. Here you go.
You're about to
Enjoy.
get away. Yeah, you're about to get away, and then...
And then you hear this.
Everyone!
Yes. Yeah.
Needless to say, we didn't make it out.
No.
So, and ever since then, I've pretty much always had my phone on ringer, on vibrate.
Yeah.
Just never. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? How those little things that you realize, oh shit, yeah, like that right there, that was a real world condition where vibration would have that would have changed the course of my life too, because like we got back together after that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe we wouldn't have. We just gotten away.
Yeah. It is funny how certain sounds. I had a weird kind of reverse moment of that the other day. Not anything like ex-girlfriend or whatever, but I was doing a stream, and I've had the 5th Doctor Who theme as my ringtone now as my standard kind of default ringer for I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years at this point. So it, like when I hear that, my first thought is my phone is ringing. So I was doing the stream, and I was working.
Did it go off someplace else, and you were like,
sort of, right? I was working on the 4th Dr. L. That's the one I'm doing right now as of this recording, which I'm at the color stage of, so I'm mostly done with the line work, but I was doing the line work. And I was talking, and then I suddenly heard the Doctor Who theme. And I went, my first instinct is I looked at my phone because I'm like, wait a minute, that's the wrong Doctor. What is this? And in the other room, the HomePod Mini was playing the theme. And I don't remember ever saying a combination of words, but I mean, I was talking, so I'm sure I somehow said something that it heard as Siri, and then probably said Doctor Who or something like that. So I don't think it was a spook or a ghost or anything like that. But you in the stream, you'll hear me go, wait a minute. And I didn't stop streaming. I just got up and I'm like, oh, that's really weird. And I said, I don't know if you heard that, because you can hear me say, Siri, what are you playing? And she's like, this is the haunted from Doctor Who. Yeah, exactly.
It's haunted.
It was odd because it was one of those things that, you know, like people were like, oh, that's a sign. Someone walked over. And I'm like, no, it's not. The thing heard me say something. Because what's funny is I then walked into the room I streamed from, and I didn't even that loud. I said Siri, and she said, uh-huh. And I'm like, okay, yeah, she can hear me. That's why. So, I mean, I scienced it out in 2 seconds. I'm like,
Hal?
You know.
Hal? What are you playing, Hal? What's in the other room, Hal?
Right. So that was one of the, but that was a similar thing where my first instinct was to look at my phone and see if somebody was calling me, because my phone was on silent, but it has exceptions for like you, my wife, my mother, and my sister. It's like the only 4 people, or my mother-in-law. That's it. There's only 5 people that can get through on Do Not Disturb. So I'm like, if it's going through Do Not Disturb, is something wrong? Is someone dead? And then I realized, I'm like, oh no, it's not the phone. It's coming from the other room. It's coming from inside the house.
You know what? All I can think of now is, what's wrong, Dave? I'm playing Doctor Who.
Okay, I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave. Yeah, exactly.
It's Doctor Who time.
See, and I'm. By the way, this is one of those things where you sit there and go, boy, the money these companies are leaving on the table. If Apple was to sell a HAL version of Siri as the, I would pay for that. Are you kidding? I'd pay for that in a minute.
I want my robot to sound homicidal. Come on.
Yes, of course I do. Yeah. We had Cookie Monster as our GPS, and it was the best thing.
Oh, did you? I remember the Darth Vader.
Yeah, I was never as impressed with that. The Cookie Monster one is hysterical because he sounds like he's high the whole time.
It's Cookie Monster.
And because he talks kind of like Yoda talks. So he's got that thing where he's like, oh, take next left. Me no steer you wrong. It's great.
I can't. I don't think I could take that seriously.
Oh, that's what makes it entertaining. That's why it's fun.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, I do miss Cookie Monster GPS. That was again something I would pay money for.
Did my wife put on the male voice on the iPhone?
Oh yeah,
and he sounds like such a bro. Like I call it like bro nav because it's like, hey man, go this way, totally cool.
God. We've used the Australian one for so long. I'm not used to the other one.
I like the Australian one.
I'm not used to the original anymore because I had to reset the HomePod for some reason. I think because our network thing updated and something got and it does not recover well. I'll say this. Those HomePods do not recover well if anything even minor changes. You basically might as well just wipe it and start from scratch. It just makes it easier and saves you time. So it went back to the standard voice and went, oh God, no. Go back. Changed it right away.
What are you doing, Dave? Are you trying to reset me again?
I tell you, it really is. It is astonishing for as much as Apple has done in terms of really great hardware. Siri is the worst thing in the world to use. It is astonishing. At least
what's the voice from Portal? What's her name? GLaDOS.
Oh, GLaDOS?
At least get the GLaDOS voice.
They did that for, I think the Echo could do that for a while. The GLaDOS voice was on something.
Yeah, or get Arnold. Give me a homicidal machine. Come on.
Here it is. You could get GLaDOS for your GPS, and I believe it would occasionally try to throw you off, which is weird.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah. It was a fan-made one. That's why. So that's why. I was going to say, I can't imagine legally they could do that. It's because somebody made it. Yeah. GLaDOS voice passively aggressively automates your home. Yeah, people have made this stuff. So yeah, this is somebody hooked it up on their Raspberry Pi. This is this year. This was geez, this was about a month ago. Somebody created a Raspberry Pi thing where GLaDOS could automate your home and she'd yell at you and stuff. That's hysterical. Oh, he made a face for it too. He made the GLaDOS face that you could attach. Oh my God, that would be great. That's hysterical. Good for you, man. God, people are such psychos. That's why I ordered one of those flipper devices. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I want one.
What's the flipper device?
God, how do I describe what this thing is? It's a flipper. It's called the Flipper Zero. It is the portable multi-tool device for geeks. Yes, that's correct. It's a portable multi-tool for pen test. Pen tester means security testing. And geeks in a toy-like body. It loves hacking digital stuff such as radio protocols, access control systems, hardware, and more. It's fully open source. Basically, you can do a lot with this thing. This is almost like a cyber deck for your hands. Like you can just, it's got a radio built in. It's got infrared. It's got GPIO pins. It's got all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. You can open your garage door honestly, with it, close it, whatever.
Yeah, it's this stuff. It's this kind of mindset that gives me hope that if things ever got really authoritarian, people might actually.
Yeah. I mean, that thing has a little tiny, the bad side is this people have also used to hack like hotel cards to get into rooms. I mean, this thing can do a lot, which is why it will probably be illegal at some point.
Yeah. The pros and cons.
But I just like the idea of being able to have it for if we're in a hotel room and I can't get the TV to do what I want.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Or not. But yeah.
I had an interesting question occur to me the other day, or questioning idea occur to me. We watched Kindergarten Cop with the kids because they've never seen an Arnold movie, and I thought that would be a good entrance into Arnold movies. Because it starts out violent, and then it's all heartwarming and ridiculous, and there's a lot of good one-liners. Which I've been using for years, so it's finally time they saw the movie. But either way, we started talking about films with them and the nature of films, and then we started talking. My wife and I started talking more so about like how people take films so seriously and like what's the point of film. And it occurred to me that the technology of cinema, which has become the predominant media entertainment, right? Would you agree that movies and TV are like kind of the main thing that we are entertained by at this point as a society?
Well, it definitely would be video,
right?
I mean, TikTok and
that technology is only what 1918 earliest. When's the first black and white films?
Let's see. First movie. Let's see. I mean, they had the demo ones, so let's see what the first ones are. It's got 1920s.
1920s. Okay.
Well, hold on. But, I mean, you're talking about like a film that people went to, or
But either way, think about this, right? The entertainment media that we enjoy the most, that is most pervasive, right?
Yeah.
Has only been around for about 100 years.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Because technically film was before the 20s, but it was really more of, it's a novelty. When you're talking about the film industry.
And the technology as we know it today. I mean, my kids are growing up with Netflix, but like we grew up with broadcast television.
Yeah.
Remember, cable was like a luxury item when I was in high school, right? And now, now they throw channels at you for free. Jesus Christ. I always forget this, but if you just use the channels on the TV, like sometimes they come with their own, like Samsungs have like their own Samsung channels, right? Yeah. There's like 100 of them, if not 1,000 of them. Like I don't even bother, but there's like music video channels and there's like all this shit. I'm like, Jesus, you're just throwing TV at me at this point. But the actual technology of it is, going back to its most basic form is 100 years old. And yet it has become the media entertainment that we are both live and die by. Sure. We obsess about these movies and we talk about them like, they have some kind of holy status. Like Star Wars, where you and I, we love Star Wars. We grew up with all this great stuff. But like that movie has only existed in this universe since what year was that? 70?
Oh, what, Star Wars?
Yeah, for Star Wars.
Star Wars was 77, I believe.
77. So think about that. 77. Like it really
77.
creates this sense of briefness, You know, my kids and I were watching a really bad documentary, which I will just say, the Life on Earth documentary that Netflix is doing with Morgan Freeman is not great. But the idea of it was really interesting, which is the idea of trying to understand all the different mass extinctions that have happened on Earth. It's just honestly, watching it is like trying to listen to a kid with ADHD explain, like, you know, it is, because it's all over the place. It's all over the place. But this idea of like the briefness of things, giving you a sense of scope, a sense of, perspective. And TV-wise, it was interesting to sit there and think, yeah, this has only been around here for 100 years. I was like, it's so important to us, and yet it's only been here for 100 years. There are people alive today who remember, let's say 115? Yeah, remember, or maybe they don't remember. Well, they would, 115. Yeah. Would remember pre-TV existence. They would have been
absolutely
young children. But pre-TV existence. I remember pre-cell phone existence. My mother actually had to correct her. I saw my mother recently. She actually had to correct herself because she was like, I said something about not having a phone, and I meant like a house phone. And she was like, you didn't have cell phone. There were no cell phones when you were a kid. And I was like, no, I'm talking about a
landline.
A landline, like, a Bakelite phone with a rotary. Which we only had one of those for a while. But it's funny to get this perspective at how brief these technologies really are. Like, and I guess the overall idea is that perhaps we should be more grateful than we are. It's like, we take everything very seriously. And there are things that should be taken seriously, like politics and, people's rights and things like that, and human suffering. But like with entertainment, especially entertainment like that, where it's like Joe's going to review a movie, and I like it that lately your movie reviews have been very, you're not looking to rip stuff apart. You're looking for stuff that's unknown gems, essentially, is what your quest of late feels like to me. But people who want to watch movies just to rip them apart, you know what I mean? Where they're like, I'm just going to see this and destroy it. And I'm like, there are bad movies out there. But it's like, let's stop and just think about the fact that we've had this technology for only 100 years. Computers. When did computers? That was like the first computer of any kind was World War II, wasn't it? Which is with the whole Enigma program.
Yeah, I mean, some of that becomes a discussion of what do you define a computer as? Are you talking about computers as,
right.
Silicon based, or because obviously there are computing. I mean, technically an abacus is a computer.
Yeah, it's computational. That's right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but yes, you're right. I mean, what you're talking about is an experimental form. Yeah, I would say. Well, let's see. I'm kind of curious. Yeah. When do they consider the earliest computer? Here we go. A machine that can be programmed. A computer is a machine that can be programmed to carry out sequences of. Oh boy. Oh, arithmetic. God, I'm not used to seeing that word spelled out. I'm used to just saying it. Or logical operations, computation. Okay, so the first known use of computer was in a 1613 book. Well, that's the use of the term. Okay, devices. All right, pre-20th century. Yeah, okay. Oh, look, there's an abacus. What do you know? Let's see. Abacus. Let's see the modern. Device. All right, here it is. So the Babbage machine is considered a mechanical computer from the early 19th century. 1822, but what you're talking about is an electromechanical calculating machine, which the earliest version of that is 1914, which is a machine that really did not do what we would see.
It was a calculator, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about, the Navy in 1938 had developed an analog computer that could be considered analogous. Oh, that's funny, to a modern computing machine. So. But what you're talking about is a home PC.
Yeah.
I mean, those were not around until, let's see. I mean, and they were still huge. But a modern home PC.
Oh, dude. When I was in my early 20s, I dreamed of an iPhone.
Yeah.
I dreamed of a device like that. The leaps and bounds that we've made. But yeah, it is quite fascinating how truly brief.
Oh, yeah. It's
so
nothing.
much
and it's accelerated. So
much. But how brief so much of what we take for granted is. it's funny because you and I do this
75.
sometimes.
The personal computer was introduced in
Jesus Christ,
1975.
You know, you and I were playing the other night, Baldur's Gate, and there was a total server crash, right?
There certainly was.
And we were kind of laughing about it. We were a little annoyed because we'd set time aside.
Yeah.
And then I sat back and I thought to myself, we're playing a game like this, of this scale, in co-op.
Yeah.
Like, across the country, like, the technologies involved are astronomical. If you went back to your youth and found your 16-year-old self and said, hey, when you're in your 40s, you're going to be doing this. It's science fiction. It's all science fiction. And it is so brief. Like, it's so brief that after I had this thought, it just made it feel so tenuous, so easy to lose. You know, we were like, holy shit, if you really think about it, I was like, you think about the basic technologies that mankind has had. You know, we had the wheel, we've had fire, we've had blades, we had some level of clothing technology, the ability to make it, right? But like the shit that we really enjoy every day, like automobiles and working plumbing and, TV, video, that stuff, like I said, it's only 100 years old. Writing. When does the first book is the oh god, I forgot the Bible. What was the press called? It wasn't the Gibson
the
press.
Gutenberg press?
The Gutenberg press. What year is that? That's like 1600s, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I'll look it up for you. Gutenberg press. Let's take a look.
Yeah, and it's amazing.
The movable press is the printing press around 1450 was when the press was in operation. 1450.
There you go. Yeah, so think about that. I mean, that alone right there is, in the scope of things, really not that long ago. I mean, I know that
we had printed paper we've had it for, what is it? It would be about 700 years? No, not even.
Yeah.
Not even 700, which is not, when you think about how much of life
you know
depends
what?
on printing.
Listen, printers. How long have we had home printers?
Hold on, let's see.
Remember how expensive those goddamn things were? The other day I had to go find a printer because ours is starting to act up. And I thought that all the printers I was seeing in the store were cheap shit. So I went online because I was like, oh, shit, these things are all cheap crap. And then I was like, no, they aren't cheap crap. Basic printers are just pretty cheap now because the technology is just so commonplace. Like if you spent the money that we used to have to spend for a printer today, you'd get some sort of monolith printer.
Okay, so liquid inkjet printers first became a home consumer item in the late 1980s, going for around $1,000.
Yeah, I mean, geez, and today you can get an amazing one for like $150.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's
not to over promote something, but if you go and listen to the show I did with Aunt Pruitt about Adobe Max, I make this very point when I was talking about Photoshop, which I have been using.
Oh, Photoshop is fucking magic.
Yeah, I started using Photoshop. It was either version 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And back then, the idea of just compositing images, you could do it.
Have you ever seen the video about people, the artists who used to Photoshop photographs? Have you ever seen this?
You mean you mean the old style of it?
Yeah, when they used to actively
the pre-Photoshop.
I'm talking about,
you're talking about people who were doing photo compositing without Photoshop.
The people who are actively basically cutting and pasting
you're talking about the people who were doing like the Stalin photos and that kind of thing where suddenly people disappeared.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I did it in high school. My teacher wanted us to understand the difference between using a computer for and the real one. So she had us actually do. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't on an industrial scale.
I mean, you weren't.
She had us doing it where you would do multiple exposures and you would paint over things and white things out. And one of the things you had to do was make it so that she couldn't easily tell. You were to take two photos.
The idea, but
never
the
show
key
them
thing
to
is
her,
the
and give her the final version.
Of Photoshop has been with us forever.
I mean that's.
But the technology of Photoshop, which is so powerful.
Well, that's what ghost photography was. That was the ghost photography thing where they would have phantoms. I mean, that's
fairies. Remember the fairy? The whole fairy.
Yeah,
fairies in the
analog
woods.
Photoshop. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I was making my point in that late night was I said these people who want to complain, you don't understand what And again, this
power that you have in your hands
and on your phone, the things you could do with to composite and like Magic Eraser or the what do you call it? The portrait mode on an iPhone. Listen, that stuff is science fiction.
Let's be really lazy. Remember when you had an eBay auction that was about to end and you had to run to your computer
the bots.
And keep reloading it because you were like, and now you can just sit there on your phone and be like, oh, it's coming to an end, and just nail it. No,
you don't even have to do that. You just download a 2 kilobyte bot that you tell it, I want this item, and it does it for you.
Oh, you're one of those bastards.
No, I never used one, but I know they exist.
No,
I always thought it was fun to try to beat it. That was the fun for me. Yeah.
Yes, counting down the seconds. But I think it's kind of, I mean, I guess you could call this my own PSA, which is before you get ludicrously pissed off about some technology not working, take a step back. Think about how little society has had that technology and how amazing it is that you have that technology in the first place. It's not a pass. It's not this doesn't work, but it's okay because you only had this. No. It's not a pass. It's just take a moment, take a breather, step back from kicking your printer and realize, hey, you know what? It's really amazing we have this technology.
No,
take a breath.
I agree. That's one thing, and I do it too. It's not like we're somehow enlightened beings. If you think I don't get annoyed sometimes when I'm in Photoshop or in Premiere and I get a spinning wheel or a spinning circle on Windows, and I want to put my fist through the damn thing. Of course, but it is amazing where we are now. What even a cheap computer can do compared to even 10 years ago. It's unbelievable.
Could you imagine going back to like getting like a $300? Hold on, a $300 like Asus
Listen,
and going back in time with it.
I still have a MacBook Air with an Intel chip in it because it works fine for what I need a MacBook Air to do. It's the last one they did with Intel, right?
Yeah.
Just hitting the power button and how long that thing takes to boot up compared to an M series is incredible. It really is.
I just got rid of my was it my 20? It was a 2000. I think it was a 2008 MacBook Pro. Well, the one that was like 3 inches thick. Right.
Yeah.
And before I got rid of it, because I even brought it with me when I moved because I didn't want to just get rid of it. And I had to turn it on to make sure there was nothing on it. So I turned it on. I had it plugged in, and I was just standing there for a while.
Oh yeah, no, you're
just waiting for the hard drive. Yeah, just waiting for the hard drive to be like, whoa. And now it's like I could do a full computer reset in like. I mean, that always throws me off when we're about to record, and one of us will be like, "Hold on, I got to reset the computer," and it's like. Before it was like, okay, I'll see you in 20 minutes. Whereas like now it's 20 seconds, I'm back. Hey, everything reset. We're good. So this is just a PSA of just be grateful. Be grateful we have these technologies. It's amazing that we live when we do. And you know what, to take it a step further, visual media has, like I said, only been a thing for about 100 years, like, movies and stuff like that. Do you want to spitball what in the next couple 100 years do you think will become the next predominant entertainment technology? Because there's always the idea that it's supposed to be virtual, but I don't think virtual seems to be really dragging its feet.
But virtual is just an enhanced video. You know what I mean? It's not really
it's interactive
anything
video.
Different. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know what the next.
Unless they beam the experiences directly into your brain.
I was going to say the only way past that is to have something that is, it would have to be reality replacing. It would have to be VR directly in your brain. It wouldn't be a headset.
Yeah, something that gets beamed directly in. Yeah.
Yeah, which honestly, some people feel like that now. So I don't even know how much further there is to go. There are people who get physical responses to VR. So isn't that it?
Well, here's the thing. I was thinking about this the other day when I was driving. So when I think about the physical activity of driving, my driving gets terrible, right? Because I've been driving for so long that it's become instinctual. Like, I just know how to drive, right? And I dread that because one day I'm going to have to teach my kids to drive. They're going to be like, how do you do it? And I'm going to be like, well, you just do it, man. But I was thinking about the components of the physical components of driving and how your brain over time, it just becomes part of your body. Like your body just translates this into what it is. And like I had that the other night, we were playing Baldur's Gate and I realized I was so into it, and we had been doing, I mean, we're like more than 100 hours in now. I don't even think about what I'm doing. Like, I don't even think about the buttons. I just want to go someplace and my body takes me there. Right. And to some degree, isn't that connection? Isn't that kind of making it just becomes an experience? You're no longer playing a game. Your brain is translating it as a physical response, So I don't think it would be that hard to get there. I just don't think that we're there yet. But I wonder if that's where we're headed, and that it's just going to become you just got to, you just got to figure out how to get that signal into the head.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's going to be some sort of magnetic thing. I don't think we're ever going to plug anything in the brain.
No, they have already done the experiments with those magnet helmets that make you see God and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be some kind of like a resonance helmet that just creates an experience, and then we just start fine tuning what it is to create the experience rather than, at which point society will come to an end because we'll have helmets that can just give us unlimited orgasms, and that'll be it.
Sure. Yeah.
That'll be a real thing, won't it? Like,
when
society creates that red button that just instantly gives you orgasm, right? It's really going to separate the weak from the weak from the strong. The people that are like, I know I can push the red button whenever I want, but I'm not going to because I should have to earn it. And the people that are just like red button, red button, red button, red button forever till they just Yeah. Oh man. I'm trying to think what movie that was. Oh no, you know what? It was the Firefly thing when they gave those people that drug that just made everybody lay down and die.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do wonder because we were always like, oh, it'll be the apocalypse will be, it'll be the bombs, or it'll be, zombies, or it'll be Road Warrior, and I'm like, no, maybe not. Maybe the end of society is when things just get too comfortable and everybody just keeps hitting that orgasm button and doesn't go out. Maybe when you just make something too good, when it just becomes too immersive. And we've read this book before, haven't we? Where like the virtual technology becomes so pervasively good that nobody wants to get off the couch. Nobody wants to actually get up and.
Oh, sure, of course.
Oh,
that's WALL-E. That's the whole movie, WALL-E.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It's amazing how you could sneak that idea into a kids movie.
Easily and successfully.
Yeah. So, anyway, that was my. I guess that was my PSA. And on to the review. So,
there is a new release for a Cynthia Rothrock film, and one I haven't seen. And,
is it an old movie?
Oh, yeah. It's from 1989. Yeah.
1989.
It's called, all right, hold on, because it has like 3 titles. So, I'm not going to attempt, 89. I'm not going to attempt the Chinese title. But the 3 main titles it's known by, the one I know it by, and the one that's on the Blu-ray kind of tries to have it always by making the other titles into subtitles. But I know it as Lady Reporter because that's what's on the Blu-ray. It's also known as Blonde Fury. It's also known as Righting Wrongs 2. Now, the reason Blonde Fury, I'll get to why
I love this cover.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. So Righting Wrongs 2 is really a BS title. And what it really comes from is she's playing a character that has the same name as the character in Righting Wrongs. And she's playing a American FBI agent again. So people are saying, oh, it's an unofficial sequel. But there really is nothing to cement that. It may have been that was the plan and it got abandoned because it doesn't feel like a sequel.
It also has the name Above the Law 2, The Blonde Fury.
Well, that's because Righting Wrongs was also known as Above the Law. So it's basically, that's just another permutation.
There's so many titles. Okay.
Yeah. So now Blonde Fury is the more interesting title because now I don't know if the subtitles were wrong. Actually, I should check on what IMDb is. Now, IMDb doesn't say anything about it. So I don't know, but the subtitles at times, what people are calling her is Blonde Pussy. Now, the reason, The reason I don't think the subtitles are
blonde,
wrong,
like Blonde Kitty, is it like Blonde Kitty?
No, because the joke, and you have to understand, Hong Kong humor is different. These movies have a different sense of humor. She is mistaken for a prostitute at the beginning of the movie. So I don't believe that's I don't believe that's a mistranslation. I do believe that they were saying blonde pussy. And so I think because they couldn't put the blonde pussy on the cover, they said the blonde fury. I'm just saying, right. So it's just ridiculous. But anyway, this was from what I've read, this is the first movie where she was the lead. Because Righting Wrong, she's not really the lead. And she was not really the lead in Yes, Madam. That was Michelle Yeoh, and then I don't remember, I think it's Corey Wen, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce that right, who was Righting Wrongs. So this one, she is the lead. Now, of course, the thing is, even being a lead in one of these productions, you're one of a bunch of people. So there almost is no lead in a thing like this, but she technically has the most fights on her own, and so that would, in this type of film, make her the lead. So she is the lead in this. It's a pretty... a fairly typical type of story. It's not all that much of a variation on Righting Wrongs. She is an investigator sent in because there is a money counterfeiting outfit in Hong Kong. And they have this hilarious opening, which is in English, and it's badly dubbed English on people speaking English, which makes it doubly funny, where the American authorities are concerned, and we need to put in somebody who's a local who, can get in with the culture. Oh, we have the perfect person for that because she's, she went to school in Hong Kong, so we'll send her there, and she knows people. And they send it, of course, to Cynthia Rothrock, and then it gets the transplant to Hong Kong. So the only American part is in an office they built with a couple of American-looking people, and that's it. And then immediately we go to, a Chinese production. Although I don't know, was this one actually filmed in Hong Kong? I think it was. I just want to look. Pretty sure. The country of origin. Oh, it says United States and Hong Kong. Yeah, there might have been some shots in the United States. It looks like it's mostly in Hong Kong to me. But whatever, it doesn't really matter. The story is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. So she goes over and she becomes a reporter, hence Lady Reporter. That's her first cover, which, the first thing she does is run into a burning building, which happens to be a brothel. And so she's confused with being a prostitute by another newspaper, a rival newspaper that's, about to go under. And there's all kinds of hijinks with that. All this really is a setup so that she can fight a bunch of people. That's all it is. The story really doesn't matter. I mean, you know where this is going from the beginning all the way through the end. All that really matters in a film like this is, are the fights plentiful and good? And they are. The pacing is very good. The first fight happens at 18 minutes. It's her, jumping all over the place, fighting people. They showcase her talents very well. It's not one of these modern things where the camera's cutting 80 times. You can see her doing the stunts. In fact,
hey,
yes.
I just have a question because it just occurred to me talking about Cynthia
Sure.
Rothrock, because she did a lot of her own stunt work and all these things.
She did. In fact, in this one, she did the stunt where she jumps out of the building with it's not a real baby, but a prop baby. She had to do it a bunch of times and got injured. And from what she said, when she went to the hospital, they said, well, you're fine, but your internal organs have been jumbled. And that's all they told her.
I was specifically about to ask you was, did she ever get hurt during all this work? I mean,
I don't think she was ever injured in the same severity as, say, Jackie Chan, but there was on, I believe.
Well, Michelle, I know Michelle Yeoh got hurt before she started doing this because she was, I think she broke her back, didn't she, before she got in the movies?
I think so. I don't remember when exactly that happened. Although she was almost killed on Police Story 3 because she kept the moving car stunt with Michelle Yeoh. She did those stunts, and she was almost run over, I think, twice. Because if you watch the stunt, it's unbelievable when you think of who Michelle Yeoh is. That before she was a big time actress the way she is now, the stunts she was doing, she could have died in a second, just like a lot of them could. That's just what they did because they were doing their own stunts. And I know Rothrock broke her, I want to say it was her leg or her foot. And so in the fight, you can see that she's got a cast on underneath the clothing, but she still did the fight because she had to, even with the broken foot and stuff. So, but I don't think it was ever like Jackie Chan could have died on he broke his neck, his back. I think he broke everything. So Jackie Chan is probably the one who came the closest to being killed more than once.
Well, and he did, and he had some ridiculous shit he did early on.
Oh yeah, that was exactly what made him is his stunt work. So in these productions, a lot of times, because you have to remember, these are people that we know now as who they are. But when they were starting out, this is how you got somewhere. They didn't have people to do this stuff for you. You were expected to do a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And in Rothrock's case, as in many of their cases, they were athletic people who had training that did this type of work. And so they didn't have a problem doing it either. It's just sometimes things go wrong. But I don't think she was ever serious, at least not that I know of. Now, she's done a lot of movies and a lot of work, and I haven't seen it all, and I haven't seen every interview with her, so I may have missed something. But I have not come across something where she was ever seriously, gravely injured the way some performers have been. So again, the movie, it really isn't, there's no review per se outside to say the fights are excellent. And she does a lot
it is definitely worth watching.
Yeah, in particular, they did one that, and I know she's talked about this because they show her, she runs down a very tall, what do you call it? Like a rope, not a rope ladder, but like those big lattices like they have on training courses. The big rope thing where you have to climb. It's,
Oh, it's like a net.
Yeah, that's net. Of course, can't come up with the word net. She runs down a very tall net with no padding underneath. And she runs down it with if there's wires, you can't see them. And I don't think so, because she talked about how the net fight was one of the more stupid ones she ever did. But it's great because you see, again, this is not something you see anymore, is you see her doing all the fighting. There's a lot of vertical fights where they're up off the ground. There's a lot of kind of moving around different locations. This is one of the things that I think is the best about these films, unlike modern films, which, modern films do this, but they don't do it the same way anymore. A lot of fights are on the ground.
Yeah, there's insurance. That's the thing. A lot of this, there's a period in this action movie genre where there were people going, "Fuck it, let's just make it. Who cares?" And now people are like, the insurance says we can't just throw you up there without a rope.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, what is it? What's his name? Keanu Reeves had, I think he had 4 stunt body doubles in the last John Wick movie.
Well, and that's more understandable because he's not young anymore.
No, I know that, but that's what I'm saying. It's like there is a level of insurance and there is a level of this is the face of our movie. We want to
yes.
protect them. Whereas at that point in those movies, Cynthia Rothrock was nobody really. Yeah. And they just wanted to make the movie. And if she broke her neck making the movie, then so sorry.
Right. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that is fairly accurate. But like I said, this is a... I've seen people complaining about the story. I'm like, oh, come on, this is not a movie. I guess I'm just not expecting much of a story. This is not Shakespeare. Right. I do think this is, I believe she has said that this is one of the films she thinks is her best film as far as her fighting. And I think that's probably true in terms of she has, I believe, 5 fights, including one against 2 people at once. And the thing is that she did movies that had better fighting, but she was generally either in them less or she was doing kind of even Yes, Madam is a split fight with her and Michelle Yeoh, which don't get me wrong. I adore that fight because it's her and Michelle Yeoh and I know they're doing the fighting. So to me, that's one of the exceptions where I think her being with somebody else is the reason you want to see it, is because it's the 2 of them together. But a lot of other ones, she's either doing a separate fight, or the thing that I always dread in these types of movies is a guy comes in to save her when, she starts to lose a little bit. And they actually do the inverse in this film where there's a guy losing and then she shows up and that's when the fight turns, which is what it should be because she's much better than everybody else in these movies. Or at least at the same level. Let's put it that way. She doesn't have to be a damsel in distress. That's very clear. And so in that regard, I think it's great. Don't come for the story. The jokes are fine. They're stereotypical types of these jokes, but I mean, the amount of times they call her blonde pussy it's pretty funny, I have to admit, through a modern lens, because it's like, oh God, this is so not an acceptable way to do things now.
Modern lens watching Kindergarten Cop, that was amazing. Oh,
a lot of movies through a modern lens are interesting to dissect, shall we say. But yeah, so yes, I would say, I would say this is one of the better ones of the movies I've seen of hers of this era. This is definitely in a top 3 to 5.
Why did it take you so long to get to it? I'm curious.
You know what? I don't remember ever hearing about it. I don't remember this one. So the thing is, I've gone through. A lot of them, number one, weren't available till recently. There's another thing. A lot of these movies you could not get. Yes, Madam just came out on Blu-ray in the last 4 years, maybe. Otherwise, they were really crappy copies, which, and when I say crappy copies, I mean sometimes unwatchable. But this one, I don't remember ever hearing about this one. So I don't know. I really don't know why I never watched it before, unless I did and I don't remember it. But I don't remember anything from this movie. So I have a hunch this either came out and sort of got obscured by her American stuff. Okay. And then the earlier kind of bigger action things. Because, I mean, I've seen all the China O'Brien type stuff, and that was all the American versions and that type of thing. So I've seen those. But, I mean, I haven't seen every single movie she ever made either. So I don't really know why I never saw this one. I couldn't tell you. But I'm glad I did because it's really good. I'm glad I saw it in this quality because it looks fantastic. So you really get to see, this in its best version. And to some degree, I'm kind of happy to see things first like this when I get to see them with the best possible presentation. And also, it's not bad to see something and be like, oh, this is great that I never saw before. So,
I absolutely love that. I mean, we've said this before. It's great to get to this point in your life and still find stuff and be like, holy shit. Yeah. This is amazing. I never saw it before.
I never saw it? Yeah, I don't know. Let me see something here. Top Cynthia. Maybe it was never on any of the lists. I'm curious. I mean, some people really don't like this movie, which I can't understand. I really cannot. But I also think people have some crazy expectations from films, That, let's say, top 10 favorite films.
Yes, we just had a whole conversation about, get your expectations in check.
I know. This is dead center of a top 10 list. So this is in the middle. They've got this as number 5. Let's see. Now, on the rest of this list, let's take a look at this list. Righting Wrongs, I've seen it. I own it. Yes, Madam, I've seen it. I own it. China O'Brien 1 and 2, and I've seen it. I don't own them because I think there's a good version of them coming out, but I've seen both. I wouldn't put China O'Brien 2 ahead of this one, I don't think. I think I would put this one higher than this list has it. Martial Law 2, Undercover. Sure, either of the martial laws, that's fine. I would say that. Millionaire's Express. I don't think I've seen this one. I
haven't even heard of that one.
Yeah, well, and maybe I saw it on a different title. Who knows? Rage and Honor, yes, that's a great movie. Not a good movie, but a great movie. Rage and Honor 2, same thing. And then Magic Crystal. I've never heard of this one either. Another one from 86. Millionaire's Express and Magic Crystal are both from 86. But see, she's also, I don't think, the star of Magic Crystal. So that's probably because she's got one good fight scene. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean.
She's part of it, but she's not the lead,
Yeah, that could be. Geez. Cynthia Rothrock performed most of the scenes in Magic Crystal while nursing a blown-out knee. Oh, no. She accidentally stabbed her opponent in the groin, but fortunately he was uninjured. Oh, because her knee gave out. Ah! Ouch!
Sounds
Well, now I have to see it because I'm curious if they left it in.
Well, that's the other thing too. If they had footage like that, they'd be like, "No, we'll just leave it in. It looks too good."
Yeah. Let's see. I'm just reading through it. Yeah. See, this is one of the ones where she's a secondary to somebody else. That's probably why. So a lot of these, because if you look at some of these, you wouldn't even know she's in it. So that could be the same. Now, not this one. This one, she's right on the cover. Although I don't like that cover. It doesn't. She looks very bloated in that cover. There's another cover they use that's much better. That one, she just looks like she's eaten too much salt. I mean, it's awful. The one that Eureka did is a much, much better cover. They clearly got a new artist to do a kind of 80s version of it, and it is 1,000 times better than this garbage. I mean, maybe I didn't even know it was her in that. So, but I would say watch it. If you're a Rothrock fan like I am, and if you haven't seen it, it's absolutely worth watching. Absolutely worth watching. It's a very, very fun movie. And like I said, I think she's got 5 fights total. 2 of them in particular are really good because they are using a lot of vertical space. And the one is against 2 people at once. And the only surprising thing, she only uses weapons because she's a weapons specialist. She uses a lot of spears and long weapons, especially in a lot of movies she uses it. In this one, she only really uses them in the last fight, which it's great, but I was really kind of surprised how little she used any objects. It's mostly hand-to-hand up close or kind of jumping in and around things, which don't get me wrong. It's great. It's not a complaint. It's just a surprise because almost always they showcase in her other films her using some kind of actual spear, umbrella, something like that, a long weapon because that's what her specialty is, or other weapons, but it's usually something long. And in this movie, it only happens in that last fight scene, which is, again, great because she's essentially fighting with a bamboo spear against a guy with a metal pipe. And so she gets to do some neat stuff with that because she can bend her weapon and he can't. So she uses it in a way where she's bending it and kind of getting around him, it's inventive. These movies are all inventive. That's another thing, is that this is another one where when you think about how much planning has to go into a movie like this for these fight scenes. That's why, do I really care if the story is thin? No, the fights are what matter, and that's where all the planning and execution is. So they could literally just be sitting there reading a phone book in between the fights, and I'd still be watching it, so it doesn't matter. So in that regard, for what most people come into these films for, it delivers, especially on the Rothrock front and the fights. So absolutely worth watching. I don't know why I never watched it. I really don't. I have no explanation for that. But the nice part is you can get a very, very nice version of this from Eureka. Is it Eureka Video? Hold on. Lady Reporter. I don't know if it's Eureka Video or just Eureka. But if you just search for Lady Reporter Eureka, you'll find it. It's .co.uk and it says it's Eureka Video. Yes. So Eureka Video. Yeah. So you can get it from there. And with a much, much, much better cover. And a bunch of bonus features, including Rothrock doing commentary on some of the scenes, which I will be. Oh, now that's interesting because that Millionaires Express movie is also available from Eureka. And if you look at that cover, her name's not even on there.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if she's just a third tier character.
That's what I mean. So yeah, it's hard to say that. I'm looking at she does some of the commentary, so at least they got to do some of the commentary. That's interesting. Yeah. Eureka Video has a lot of her stuff, so that's a good place to go. And and that's it. Like I said, it's not really a review like normally there is a review because the story is next to inconsequential. But as a Rothrock film, it's great. Like I said, in terms of just raw fighting, then you can get into a secondary kind of thing where you say, all right, Righting Wrongs has a really good story. Like it's a very good movie in totality on top of the fighting. This one is really the fighting, and the story is a very throwaway. Honestly, there were points where I wasn't quite sure what was going on in the story, and I didn't make an effort to find out. So it really doesn't matter. All you have to know in a movie like this, and this they were very clear on, is who is the bad guy and who are the good guys. They were very clear on that. Now, why certain people were doing certain things, it really didn't matter. There's a secondary character who's the main bad guy's lieutenant. She's running a newspaper factory as a front for the counterfeiting operation. That disappears very quickly. You never, she has a couple of scenes where you see her on the phone and you think something's going to happen and she says she's going to take care of things. And then she just vanishes and nobody cares. It doesn't matter. The movie keeps moving. The subplot with the newspaper that's about to go out of business and the father and the son, it comes and goes. Not really clear why anybody would care about this. It doesn't matter. That's what I mean about this. Plot elements come up and they get thrown. They come up so that the scene can unfold some way. Then they throw it away so they can move to the next scene. There's all this stuff where the local police are threatening to basically arrest Rothrock because she's interfering in Hong Kong business. Then she's basically blowing up a factory and they don't seem to care anymore. Then they get upset again and then nobody cares. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. That's what I'm saying is it doesn't matter.
It's really not that important.
That's not what the movie's about. The movie's about, is she going to jump on something, do a spinning kick and knock a guy through a wall and then, flip over next to a bunch of broken glass, which could have killed her? Yes. And that's what you get. So, Lady Reporter, worth seeing, available from Eureka Video, and that's my only review for this. That and my Pixel Watch 2 story. Those are my reviews for the show.
Oh, there you go.
And on that note, go have a wonderful weekend. Don't buy a Pixel Watch unless you can get it for $100 less. Do not buy a Pixel Watch. Do buy Lady Reporter.
But be grateful that the technology exists at all.
Yes. You can. I'll put it like this: when you walk, if you are to see a Pixel Watch 2 somewhere, you won't. But let's say you walked by a store and saw it, and someone demoed it for you. By all means, let your eyes boggle at the fact that this compute power is contained in something that is the size of a watch that 10 years ago couldn't do any of this anywhere near as well. Marvel at it. regale yourself at the era of computing power.
And
then keep fucking walking and don't buy it. And instead buy Lady Reporter and watch that and marvel at the fact that a movie that looked like shit 5 years ago now looks this good. You will have a much better weekend and you'll get far more value out of it than if you bought that crappy watch that can't be repaired. On that note, have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @Ozone Nightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.